Hey there, and welcome. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself rereading the same paragraph like 10 times and feeling like absolutely nothing is sinking in? Well, if that sounds familiar, this one's for you. We're going to crack the code on how to transform studying from a total chore into something you might actually get excited about. Let's dive in.
I mean, seriously, think about it. For so many of us, the idea of studying feels like a punishment, right? It's this necessary evil we just have to get through. But what if that whole idea is wrong? What if the problem isn't the subject and it's not you, but the actual method we've all been taught to use? So here's our game plan. We're going to start by talking about that universal study struggle. We've all been there. Then we'll look at why just trying harder is some of the worst advice you can get. After that, we'll uncover the secret to real engagement, turn that theory into practice, and wrap up with a brand new mindset you're going to walk away with.
All right, first up, let's just sit with the problem for a second. And honestly, if you find studying to be a struggle, I promise you, you are in very, very good company.
You know this exact scene, right? It's late, the coffee's not working anymore, your eyes are starting to glaze over, and the words on the page might as well be written in a totally different language. You've read the same little section 5 times, but if someone asked you to explain it, no chance. It is so frustrating and it just feels like a massive waste of time.
And this struggle? It shows up in some pretty familiar ways. You know, putting things off because you just dread starting. Your mind wandering to literally anything else. Or, and this is a classic, cramming all night for a test, only to forget everything the very next day. And come on, who hasn't been guilty of the highlighter frenzy? You either turn the whole page neon yellow or you highlight nothing at all. It's just this cycle that absolutely kills your motivation.
So what's the typical answer we get when we complain about this? You just need to try harder. But that is where everything goes wrong. The problem isn't a lack of effort. The problem is that all our hard work is being poured into strategies that just don't work.
Oh, this is the one, isn't it? Just focus. But that's like telling someone who can't swim to just swim harder. It's a goal, not a plan. It doesn't tell you how to focus or what to do when your mind naturally starts to drift. All it really does is make you feel guilty without offering any real solution.
Okay, this chart right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. On the left, you have passive studying. You know, rereading your notes, highlighting half the book, kind of zoning out during a lecture. It feels like you're doing something, but your brain is basically on autopilot. But on the right, that's active studying. That's putting things in your own words, asking why, trying to explain it to someone else. See, we've been taught to live on the left side of this chart, but all the real, sticky learning, that happens on the right.
And that brings us to the core secret of this whole thing. This is the idea that completely transforms learning from a drag into a genuinely interesting challenge. It's a huge shift in how you look at the whole process.
This right here is the big mindset shift. We're taught to treat our brains like sponges, just trying to passively absorb information. But that's not how learning works. True learning isn't about absorption, it's about interaction. It's about wrestling with the material, questioning it, connecting it to other things. Basically, it's about having a conversation with what you're trying to learn.
And there's a name for this whole idea. It's called active engagement. It's that jump you make from being a passive audience member in your own education to being an active player on the field. You're not just receiving facts anymore, you're building your own understanding.
I absolutely love this metaphor. A sponge is totally passive, right? It just soaks up whatever's around it. But a detective is active. They're on the hunt for clues. They ask a ton of questions. They connect all these different pieces of evidence to build a story that makes sense. That's how you need to approach learning. Be the detective, not the sponge.
Okay, so theory is great, but how do we actually do this? How can you put this into action like tonight? Well, let's break it down into a super simple, practical method.
It really boils down to just 3 steps. First, question everything. Before you even start reading a chapter, look at the headings. If a heading is the process of photosynthesis, turn it into a question in your head. Okay, so how does photosynthesis actually work? Suddenly, you're not just reading words, you're hunting for an answer. Second, connect the dots. As you're learning something new, you have to constantly ask, what does this remind me of? Or how does this connect to something I already get? And third, and this is probably the most powerful step of all, teach it back. Try to explain the concept out loud. To a friend, to your dog, to an empty chair. It doesn't matter. If you can't explain it simply, you don't really understand it yet.
So a typical study hour could look completely different. Instead of spending 60 minutes just passively rereading, you spend maybe a little time on review, but the vast majority of your time is spent actively wrestling with the material, asking those questions, making connections, and then locking it in by trying to summarize and teach it back. It's all about working smarter, not just longer.
And if you really commit to this, the payoff isn't just a better grade on your next test, it's a complete upgrade to the way you think and learn for the rest of your life. Seriously.
I mean, look at what you gain here. You're not just memorizing facts anymore, you're building a real, deep understanding, which means the information actually stays with you. And because it's so much more efficient, you'll find you have less stress, and you actually study for less time. But the best part, the real prize, is that you start to feel genuinely curious again. Learning stops being a chore and starts becoming an exploration. You're not just learning about biology or history, you're learning how to learn.
So let's be really clear. This is not just another random study hack. This is a fundamental change in your entire approach. Adopting active engagement is like installing a brand new operating system for your brain, one that's built for curiosity, for connection, and for real, genuine understanding.
So I'll just leave you with this question. Forget about what you have to study for just a second. With this new toolkit, with this new mindset, what's one thing you are just genuinely curious to learn about? A new skill, an event from the past, a complex idea? Think about it, because now you have the key, not just to learn it, but to truly understand it and maybe even enjoy the process.